For the past month, I have been hunting through my own board game library. I've been asking friends. I've been on Discord. I've been asking you for recommendations for the best competitive board games. And I'm so happy that today that hunt is over. And I can bring to you what I have found and would like to share as the best competitive board games according to Board Games for One. Howdy and welcome back. I'm Mike, your board gaming every dude, and I'm so glad to have you here. But wait, I know what you're thinking. Aren't all board games competitive? Well, no, there are cooperative board games, and I'm sure there's other categories too. But then you're like, well, that's pretty much everything that's not cooperative. Well, technically, yes. So there are a few definitions that we're going to use to limit this list for this video. One thing was affordability. I want these to be in the mid-range of somewhere at 40 to 60 US dollars. Convert that to your currency however you can. And I wanted them to be approachable as far as easy to learn to mid-weight at the highest with a bit of a mix in there. And also for the competitive part, I wanted there to be little to no downtime for all the players so that it keeps that competitive tension there at all times. And also, because this is Board Games for One, I prioritize games that include a well-made solo mode. In this case, I made some exceptions, so there are 3 games here, I believe, that do not come with a solo mode, though one of them, I would argue, has a kind of a solo. We'll talk about it when we get there. But you're going to get plenty of good one-player competitive options here. You can play games competitively at one player? You sure can. But first, as I mentioned, I asked all of you what games you would recommend as the best competitive. And so we need to go shopping. We need to go to the game store. I need to look at the games that you've been talking about, pick some of them to bring home, open them up, try it out, and then present it to you. So don't worry, we're not doing all of that on camera, but we are going to go shopping together. Hey, if you don't want to go shopping with me, that's okay. I've divided this video up into chapters. Please skip to the part that you want to watch. It's totally okay. Or just hang out with me. But let's go look at these games and visit the sponsor for today's video. My local game store, Cape Fear Games. All right, I got to get out of here. I got a 2-hour drive to get there. I'll see you at the store. Welcome to Cape Fear Games. This is in Wilmington, North Carolina, and this is my local game store. And as you'll get to see a little bit as I'm walking around, they sell board games, card games, disc golf. They've got a used game market. They've got a game library if you want to grab some coffee, grab some beer in the Sideboard Cafe. They've got a Kickstarter section, miniatures section, all the stuff. So if you're in the area, please check it out. And you know I love to give you a way to support the channel if you would like to do that. So here at CFG, they are giving 20% off the games that I'm featuring in this video for the next 30 days. So just click the link. It's in the description. It's in the pinned comment. I really try to remember to do that for each video and use my code BOARDGAMES41, all one word. If you don't want to do that and you want to support for free, I love that. Please just give that like. If you'd like to see more, subscribe. If you don't want to see more, please don't subscribe. You'll be very unhappy. So you can see behind me, this is the strategy section. So for this list of excellent competitive games, they're probably going to land in the strategy or in the 2-player section. But I wanted to be careful and not just do a bunch of head-to-head 2-player games, because there are other types of great competitive games. So quite a few of y'all gave me some great recommendations. So I'm going to pull out some of those boxes of the recommendations, take a good look at them, really enjoy it, and we're going to pick some to take home to make our final list. All right, now y'all for the fun part. Some of the games that you recommended. Nobody recommended Axes and Allies, but come on. That is a competitive game, even if it's more on the approachable gateway spectrum. We'll see. But let me show you what was recommended was Agricola, but I'm just not feeling enough of that competitive, straight up competitive vibe that I'm looking for this video, as well as Arc Nova, which is fantastic. I don't like it, so it's not really going to enter my library or this list, which really took us through the A's. Let's go over into the B's, which brings us to Lacerda. Somebody recommended Lacerda for straight up competitive games, and I agree. We've got Bot Factory, which I have not played yet, so that could be a possibility for taking home because of its approachability. Let's take a closer look. So Lacerda is usually so heavy it can be a little bit intimidating, but let's enjoy this. Let's read it. Bot Factory. The corporate executives learned about the Kanban methodology at a seminar. Okay, so this is basically Kanban EV Lite. Convinced of its efficiency, they have reworked the entire production floor to take advantage of the benefits of Kanban. Forgive my slightly shaky hand here. They even brought in the manager from the local EV car plant. Sandra. Oh no, Sandra's back. If you've ever played Kanban or some of Lacerda's others, she's terrifying. As a consultant, no. Now you must try to impress them all by becoming even more productive in the toy factory where you work. Maybe if you can convince them that you are gung-ho for this new approach by exceeding even their lofty expectations, you can get a supervisory position and get off the assembly line. You can kind of see the reflection of my light there, but okay, so it looks like Kanban EV, like I thought, just a little lighter, which kind of rolls it out for me. You let me know what you think. I'm just not a Kanban fan. Now, Clash of Cultures really interests me. This does not have a one-player mode, which makes it a little less likely for me to grab just because it's less likely for me to get played. But for a competitive game, it sure looks like it fits the bill. Now, this is quite heavy, so give me a moment while I pull this out. I mean, look at this. 350 miniatures. This is definitely head-to-head. What is this? 4X. I love. Look at just like the landscape. It really looks like my kind of thing. Monumental edition. That's why it's so big. Explore your land. You're the leader of an ancient civilization, starting from a solitary settlement on the edge of the world. Send your settlers to explore your surroundings to expand your borders. Deploy your infantry, yeah, this is 4X, up and down, cavalry, elephants, and ships to expand your influence across the world. I won't read all of that, but build your cities, a modular system transforming into an epic metropolis, so you're advancing your civilization. Again, 4X. Revisit a classic. Okay, so this is like a redo and upgrade. Now, 114 for this epic edition, but no solo mode really makes it hard for me to spend that amount if I don't have a one-player option. Let's see. Call to Adventure. Now, I've only played solo. This was recommended, but I'm kind of going on gut here that it doesn't hit that head-to-head quite like I'm thinking of for this list. Castles of Mad King Ludwig, absolutely, and it's a great recommendation. I actually used to have the Royal Edition with all the beautiful parts to it. But again, for this list, maybe it's just because I've played it many times already. Even though I've only played it solo, I'm not feeling that head-to-head feeling, even if it's in a group. Now, Concordia is possible. This has been recommended several times, and there is actually an expansion. It is not the Venus expansion. There is an expansion that adds a solo mode, so I could justify spending a bit more to look at this multiplayer version of 2 to 5 players, and even maybe get it played with a group here. But here's the gist of it, since this is possible. 2,000 years ago, the Roman Empire. So we're getting lots of old empires. Doesn't surprise me for this competitive vibe, right? The Roman Empire ruled the lands around the Mediterranean Sea, okay. With peace at the borders, harmony inside the provinces, uniform law, and a common currency. The economy thrived and gave rise to mighty Roman dynasties as they expanded throughout the numerous. So this is like a diplomacy. Guide one of these dynasties and send colonists to the remote realms of the empire. Develop your trade networks and appease the ancient gods for the favor, all to gain the chance to emerge victorious. All right, so it's a peaceful strategy game. That is interesting. How does peaceful strategy game go with competitive? I am somewhat concerned, but it kind of sounds like a diplomacy type of thing. I've never seen a peaceful strategy game that's also recommended as competitive, so that is a possible option. All right, let's zoom down. There were some Ds like dominant species and such. For some reason that one's just never super interested me. With those Lacerda recommendations, as far as a competitive game, I mean, any Lacerda is going to meet that for the most part. maybe not Escape Plan. Escape Plan's a little unusual, but this is House of Fado. This could be recency bias for me, but if you watch my video, The Board Games at the Beach, you will get to see this discussed. And this is a highly thematic but very interactive competitive Lacerda game that is approachable. So it's the lower price range of $53 there, and the rule set is more medium weight. So this is almost a shoe-in. I'm almost certain we're going to pick this up to add to our competitive. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about it later. I'll tell you what, if I don't grab it, then we will read through it. But not to spoil you, that's just, I'm almost certain that's going to be in there. Imperium, I thought somebody would recommend Imperium, and nobody did, and I don't particularly enjoy it, so I'm not going to put it in there. But boy, it strikes me as competitive. This one very much interests me. Last Light was recommended by a good buddy. Now, again, this does not have a one-player mode, and I try to stick with that, but sometimes we break free of it. This is 2 to 4 players. One of the downsides, actually it's not too bad, that's $70. I'm willing to do that for a multiplayer game. But let's take a look at the board here, see if we want to pick this up or not. So we are clearly in space, it's like a solar system, and we've got some cards involved. Let's read this. Last Light is a fast-paced 4X game. Now, I don't only want to do 4X games. There are other types of competitive, but that's definitely almost a shoe-in when we see that, where players take on the roles of alien factions, racing to control the last light in the universe. I like the theme. Research technologies, mine and trade resources, build ships and extractors, and make sure your faction survives. Okay. You are not the only one. Looking for the last light in the universe. I wonder what the cover is. We've got a little bit of light there. Okay. What do you think? Should that be added to our list? Another recommended, and I have actually played through this one in a small tournament, Mystic Vale. This is almost a shoe-in. I don't think I have anything like this in this list to add for a great, would you call this a deck builder? I don't know if it's considered a deck builder. I mean, you're at, like, building an actual card. It's a card crafting game, and this includes a lot. This is the base game, the Veils, and Mana Storm, which is the one that was most recommended. So let's see, 2 to 4 players take on the role of druidic clans, trying to cleanse the curse upon the land. You play cards into your field to gain powerful advancement and useful Veil cards. So you actually have like these transparent cards. You'll see if we pick it up. Now, Chikoro was recommended, and actually for, though there is a fan-made solo mode, but for a competitive game on the lighter side, like this, like Something or Splendor, this is possible. And of course, we've seen several of the heavier Lacerdas, but I don't really want to add those to this list. I want the slightly more accessible ones for this list. I would love to do a Lacerda only list. Puerto Rico is definitely in there, so I'm hoping to try out the upgraded one coming from Awakened Realms soon. But you know what I would love to do is compare the original or the older version. This is because this is clearly an updated edition. I did see in the used game market, though, an older version. I would love to compare that to the new one. So this is possible for a nice competitive Euro that is not straight up 4X. We've got Puerto Rico. The island of Puerto Rico lives to move beyond the era of traditional colonialism and reshape itself for the modern world. As an independent Puerto Rican farmer in this new era, you'll complete to hire workers, grow, sell, and trade value. So this may go well with something like House of Fado, where we've got a competitive Euro addition to this list. So we have plenty of variety. And of course, Root is a shoe-in. I don't think I'm going to take it home, but it needs to be featured here because, look, you're looking for a competitive game, an asymmetrical competitive game. I'm not even going to tell you more about it because I know you've heard of it. It's like one of the biggest games out there. I think it's the #1 bestseller at this store as far as when we get into board games. At least it was a year ago. So you can't go wrong with Root, okay? It is a multiplayer game, but if you want the solo mode, you just have to get, I think, the Clockwork expansion. Maybe it's the Riverfolk. I believe it's the Riverfolk expansion. Gives you a solo mode. I'm really surprised nobody brought up Smashup. I still haven't played it. Is that a competitive game? You let me know, and let me know if that should be in a future list. I'm also surprised that Scythe wasn't recommended in there. I know there are some divisive feelings about this one though, but it's definitely a war of attrition competitive, but we'll leave that alone. Terraforming Mars was recommended, but I am still on my lifelong mission of trying to avoid playing a single game of Terraforming Mars for no apparent reason, so I just can't do it. Now, Twilight Imperium absolutely has a place here. Obviously, this is multiplayer only. You cannot pull off a 12-hour game. Oh, well, you could pull it off all by yourself, but you might end up with multiple personality disorder, which could be, a change. It'd be a different way to live. But here we go. We've got 3 to 6 players. I know we're running on the high end for this, the 142, but they actually have an edition of this on sale. So I might actually look at that. I would like to have Twilight Imperium in this list. Let me look at the other one they have. If I had a game group, I'd absolutely drop it for that. But if we don't go for Twilight Imperium, something that was recommended that actually is quite approachable. Again, it's multiplayer only, but I'm really thinking needs to have a place. It's an oldie, and some people hate it with a passion. It destroys friendships, marriages, lives, go to ruin. This is Diplomacy, a game of international intrigue, trust, and treachery. Keep your enemies close. And it's exactly what it sounds like. I mean, look at the board. That is an old board. It's kind of dry in the most appealing way. Like, I will enjoy unboxing this and just enjoying the history. 315 player pieces. Does it come with that sword? Probably not. But I have my own sword, so maybe we'll make a thing of it. Let's see. At the turn of the 20th century, one of my favorite time periods, the whole Titanic period, prior to World War I, the 7 great European powers are engaged in an intricate struggle for supremacy. Each power's military forces invade and withdraw, shifting borders and altering empires with subtle maneuvers and daring gambits. Alliances are formed. I'm thinking, even though I know this has no one-player mode, I'm thinking at $33, this is almost a guarantee for our top competitive games. You let me know what you think. Is this one of the ones that I should take home? Tapestry was recommended. I'm a little cautious. I like that it has 1 to 5 players. I have a complicated relationship with Stonemaier Games at the moment. That's another video. But I hear good things, and I hear a lot of things where people just they felt it wasn't complete. So I'm not quite ready to take that dive yet. That almost feels like its own video. And what do you think? Do you see anything here? This probably isn't competitive. Look at that video game champion. I'm just interested. This has nothing to do with our theme today. But come on. I see pixelated, and I'm happy. I believe this is what Gary Fedigator, formerly of Man vs. Meeple, told me about, but it doesn't have the solo mode. It doesn't fit the theme today. Let's check that out again, though. Nobody recommended War Chest, which I know nothing about, and I guess we won't find out about today because no one talked about it. Shame. You know what was recommended many times, and I'm seriously considering, was Clank. Now, in particular, Clank Legacy had been mentioned, but I'm looking here at Clank in Space. This is a deck building adventure, and of course it doesn't have a 1-player mode, but at this rate, at least like 6 or 7 of the games we're going to feature are going to have a solo mode. So it's a deck building adventure, but what is the deal with Clank? I've never played it. I'm going in blind. Episode 3-ish, Clank in Space. All right, so we're playing on Star Wars. The evil cyborg Lord Erraticus plunders the galaxy from his living starship, Erraticus Prime. I like it already. He has seized invaluable artifacts from galactic civilizations and hidden them deep within his constantly evolving ship. Sneak your way aboard. Oh, I like that. Hack computer term. Yes. Recover, escape. One false step and Clank. Careless noise. But how is it competitive? I'm curious to see how it's competitive. I guess you're working against each other. Oh, look at the board. Only $56. That's almost a shoe-in right there. What do you think? Is that one going home? I'm kind of thinking it is. We'll see. Now, if you want a competitive game, just come over to 2-player games. I mean, anything that says duel is going to be competitive. But again, I didn't just want to make this a list of 2-player duels. Dwarf Romantic has a duel? Was that necessary? How? It's a peaceful cooperative game. I don't know. I question. Here is something I want to mention of an indie publisher, Terrible Games. That's the name. They're not actually terrible. They chose that name, but super cool. I met them at a convention. I actually picked up Token Terrors. Now, this is 2 players. This is asymmetric, absolutely wild chess on steroids with these super cool miniatures. I've got 2 videos out on it already. I'll put a card right here if you want to check that out. This is absolutely a competitive game. Dog howdy. So yeah, you kind of like with Root, this defines a competitive game. You can't go wrong with it. Another, if I'm adding a 2-player, would be That Time You Killed Me. I got to play that a couple years ago at Board Games at the Beach, and it's also like chess, only it is almost like 3-dimensional chess, and you are traveling through time in the past and in the future and altering each of the 3 boards. It is crazy potatoes. Are we gonna take it home for this list? We'll see. All right, so the last one that was recommended was actually of a crowd-funded game. So we're gonna go back to this crowd-funded section here, and this either fields that I'm always tempted to grab everything the whole time, but somebody picked that up, and of course our used games there. Sorry to make you dizzy. But the one that was mentioned for a competitive game surprised me because I know so little about it, is right here. It's called Summit. This is Inside Up Games, 1 to 6 players. And how is it competitive? Competitive, cooperative, and solo. Interesting. Okay, so we've got some variety. What is this all about? Difficulty settings, just tell me about the game. It's an adventure game in which players attempt to ascend and descend a deadly mountain working together as rivals or alone. It's a tile laying, card playing, dice rolling survival game. I don't know if we have any tile laying. Oh, okay, so what are we looking at? We're reasonable here, absolutely. $70, 1 to 6 players. This is quite possibly an addition to check out. Let's find out. All right, y'all, so those are the games. It's time to pick them. I know I'm gonna pick 2. I might pick up to 3, which means probably 4. But we're gonna stop at 2, absolutely. We'll see if I hold to that. Okay, so I wanted to take you through the whole checkout process. I did not walk out with 2 games. I walked out with 4 games based on your recommendations. So I am going to drive home now. We're gonna get into the studio. I'm not gonna unbox them in front of you, but we're gonna take a look inside and we are going to make our finalized list of the best competitive games. So let me get home. First, this isn't my car. I didn't steal it. I'm just borrowing it. I'll see you in the studio. All right. I've made it back. I've been able to open up the games that I bought. I've been able to learn them. I haven't been able to play all of them multiplayer as I would like, but I'm basing some of this on y'all's recommendations. And having learned the games, I see where you're coming from. Let's get this party rolling. The best competitive board games. Which one's right for you? Okay, so I didn't want to drown this in 2-player face-to-face games, because that's really what I think of when I think of competitive. So there are some 2-player options. You know what? I actually didn't pick a 2-player only game. That was not intentional. But I want to start off with something a little bit more obvious that we think of as a competitive game, and just a darling gem in my opinion. Undaunted 2200 Callisto. Undaunted, many of us know this series. This is the first one that I've played, though I've heard of so many. They don't all have solo modes. This is a 1 to 4 player, essentially what I would call a skirmish game. Tell me if you would call it something else. But it's where you are on a limited map. This has, 8 different maps, I believe, and they're all boards is what I really love. I like opening these for you. There's something wonderful about being a board gamer. We love our boxes and our cardboard. But anyway, you're moving around on this limited map, this tight space, battling against each other, 2 opposing factions. You're going to be building a hand of cards, and you can purchase new cards to add that you can play in order to do things like move around the map or attack your opponents or gather resources in order to plan for a future battle. You're going to be completing missions with objectives. That's how you win, is whoever completes their objective first. Fantastic solo. Let's try solid solo mode. You can see all of these cool boards here. But of course we've got our cards, and we've got our tokens, and also some cardboard standees for our opponents. You can see, now I will say this is more in the midweight range of games. So you're going to be spending some time learning this. If you want to play it solo, you're going to be investing quite a bit more time. But once you learn it, it's intuitive. If you're brand new to board gaming, I wouldn't recommend starting here. But if you can handle some midweight or you enjoy some midweight, check it out. Space Theme Undaunted Callisto. And forgive me, that is Undaunted is published by Osprey Games, and we've got David Thompson and Trevor Benjamin as our designers. Now, this gem I found in the second-hand market. I don't remember how much, 10 bucks, 15 bucks, 7 Wonders. I was not expecting to add this to this list, particularly because it does not come with a solo mode, nor is there any expansion that adds a solo mode. I believe there is 7 Wonders Duel, probably that makes it a 2-player game. But it's such a good competitive game that it needs to be on this list regardless. It's a big seller, over 1 million copies. Look, this is a staple classic game in this hobby. But 7 Wonders is designed, it's published by Repost Production, which I am not familiar with, and designed by Antoine Bauza. And what's so nice about this is you are building up a world of wonder based on the 7 Wonders. You're building up a city around it. So you've got the different wonders here that you can play as, up to 7 wonders, and they're asymmetrical, so there's different abilities on each one, and all you're doing is you're drawing cards, you're playing a card to expand your city, and then you pass the cards that you don't use to another player. So that's where this competitive part kind of comes in, is, you know, do you want to play your best card for your moment, but then hand like them what would be the best for theirs? Or do you want to take something bad to make sure that you pass something that's bad for their strategy to them? So it's competitive in that you have to be watching your opponents, because you are giving them the building blocks for their city, and there is no downtime as you play. So then you discard, draw new cards, you play over, I believe it's 3 ages, right? You play over 3 ages, person with the best city wins the game. But let me just show you some of these. I was trying to figure out some of these wonders. I believe that's Zeus, and then I believe this is the Lighthouse of Alexandria. Of course, the Pyramids of Egypt, I can figure that one out. I believe in Ephesus, this is the Temple of Artemis. I could be wrong about that. Rhodes, I don't remember. The Colossus of Rhodes? It must be the Colossus of Rhodes, which I don't remember. Is it real or is it legend? Now, this Halicarnassus, I've never heard of. And it's kind of cool. There's a night side and a day side to the board. And Hanging Gardens of Babylon. So very basic components, but I just want to show you what I love is the ease of learning. So if you want to play this with friends, nice competitive game. Look, you've got your overview, super short setup, super short rules. You're going to be able to learn this in no time. You've got your cheat sheets. It is an older game, so if you're looking for that beautiful art, there's cool art. I mean, look at these cards, nice and silver. Little art on the other side, but I wouldn't say it's winning any awards for its art, but you can understand what's going on. I don't branch into multiplayer territory often, but I will be having some friends over just for the purpose of, I want to get some plays in of this game. But based on y'all's recommendations, I am fully comfortable recommending this as one of the best competitive games out there right now. Now, I know you saw me looking at Twilight Imperium, and I decided no on that just because the cost is so prohibitive and the length of playtime I don't feel is really appropriate for this video. Though it's one of the best competitive games out there, it doesn't fit with this grouping. So I thought, diplomacy, well, that was a little too heavy, in my opinion, also for this video. So I was like, no on diplomacy. I thought Concordia actually fit that niche of that bargaining with each other. Even though it's done differently in Concordia, you get that same essence. So this is 2 to how many players? 2 to 5 players, but there is an expansion, Concordia Solitaria, that you have to buy separately, but that includes an awesome solo mode. Check out my buddy Board Game Dave's channel. He's got a fantastic play of that. I believe it's a playthrough. If not, he talks about it, but I'm pretty sure he's got a playthrough up there. And I've got the box upside down, which I always love. All right, this is Rio Grande Games, which I'm generally not crazy about their artwork. And with this one, I would say it's good artwork. Again, I'm not writing home about it. It's not like some newer games. But designed by Mac Gertz, which I believe this is the first game of his that I own. What really stands out as a nice competitive game for this is another criteria I was looking at is I didn't want competitive games that left people walking away feeling bad afterwards. So a mean competitive game is a great game. It's not what I wanted for this video. I want these to be pretty much everybody feels good in some way. Maybe a little frustrated with your strategy, but Concordia describes itself as a peaceful competitive game where you must pay attention to others' strategy. That's an important part of this competitive nature. I didn't want games where it's, 4-player solitaire or even solitaire versus an AI opponent, because one-player games can be competitive too. But I wanted everyone to be engaged, having to watch what others are doing, and that is absolutely what you have to do here. But it is so easy to play. It is so easy and approachable to learn. I want to show you the rule book here, okay? Here's the introduction, the overview. You read some of this, you're done. Basically, you play a card, you do what it says. If you need help with doing what it says, that's where there's a little sheet here with the description of the different cards. But also, it's got this cool booklet with the history of the different nations involved in this Mediterranean area. And the map is funny because it first threw me off when I first looked at it. I was like, how is this Italy? But it is Italy, it's just sideways, so you can see the boot there. Again, old style artwork, but it's got that old style charm when you want to play something classic. Classic wooden meeples, simple player boards, simple tokens, and just your cards. You play the card you want, you do what the card says. There it is. It's just the rules are literally just this bottom. That's it. And then you've got all of your cards described. They call them personality cards. But if you forget what it does, just read right here. I know that seems like a lot of reading the first time, but it's worth it. That's not too bad. Let's keep rolling. All right, I wanted to bring in something new. This is from R2I Games and designed by Ben Rossett and Matthew O'Malley. If you saw my Board Games at the Beach video, you'll get some overview of the gameplay of Fromage. But in Fromage, you are basically making cheese. And just look at this beautiful artwork. Absolutely stunning. This is another great game where I like that it has a Lazy Susan feature, but it also allows for simultaneous gameplay, and you are forced to interact with each other, to get in each other's way intentionally or unintentionally. So you cannot be super experienced and ruin someone's plan and laugh about it, and it's fine, or you can be more serious and more experienced and strategically try and block off others' routes of strategy and improve your own. Now, this also comes with a great solo mode. And though the rule book looks a little bit heftier than the others, it's also got larger text and pictures because it's a newer game and we make rule books different now than we did with those classics. And I was able to learn it from a teacher. Granted, this one I was actually taught, which is very rare, and it was so wonderful. Thank you, Matthew. But we learned it in, I would say, 10 to 15 minutes. Now, what I have here is the limited edition. So I do have my cool little wooden tiles, but I want to get the board out. And, of course, my little plastic cheeses that you get to place on your board. These are your workers and then your little cheeses. But behind this mess, each player is going to have a player board of your own. I'm going to call it your own fromagerie. Feel free to correct me. You get to improve it with buildings. You get to collect different resources like the fruits and berries to make more expensive cheese. But the real competitive part, because again, I don't want 4 players on their own individual player board playing solitaire at the same table. That's a different type of fun. This has 4 pieces like this that form there's my face, a fully circular board that you rotate every round. And one of these is going to be in front of you. And each one of these is its own little mini game where you're doing worker placement in order to accomplish something. So in this one, you are battling for growing cheese in a specific area between these different regions of a country. So right here, you're doing area control. And on the next round, this turns to your opponent. Now they're going to be playing on it, but they have to work around what you did. And you have to watch what others are doing to be able to plan for when this one comes back to you. Meanwhile, you're playing on whatever board is in front of you, which is going to have its own separate minigame. But they're easy to learn once you learn the graphics, super easy to read. I would still put this in the medium weight category. There are 2 games here that are My personal favorites of this list, and I'm still not sure which one weighs out over the other. This one might be the winner, I'm not sure, but this is right now. Maybe it's recency bias, maybe it's the lovely art, or just the wonderful nature of both competing but also growing these beautiful cheeses. Absolutely adore this. Now you know what we're going to do. We're going to get small. I don't have a box for this because this is actually a card game, a TCG, a trading card game. This is one of the games that doesn't come with a solo mode or a solo mode expansion. However, I would argue that it does have a solo mode, and it's why I'm involved in it, in that it's just fun to collect and build your own decks, even if you rarely use it. But this is Star Wars Unlimited. If you've played a trading card game where you collect cards to create a deck of 50-some cards to battle against another player, then you have some idea of Star Wars Unlimited. It is not the easiest to learn, but I would say it's on the more approachable side of trading card games. Much easier than something like, say, Magic the Gathering. Maybe a little bit more if you start with Pokemon. Pokemon starts very basic and then gets more complex as you add things. So this is somewhere in the middle. But what I love about this isn't just a two-player trading card game. So you collect cards that you can start with a starter deck like Luke Skywalker or Darth Vader that has all the cards you need to get playing right away. But what it is you have a leader like Luke Skywalker, and you have a base like the Death Star. I don't know if that's actually a base. It probably should be, although it did get annihilated, but it was a base at one point. Anyway, you pick a leader, you pick a base, and those each have colors associated with them, or attributes. That determines how you're going to build the rest of the deck. You pick cards based on those colors. Again, just buy a starter deck and you have everything you need to play. But what's cool is you then place cards into space, like spaceships. I'm holding this up as if I'm going to flip through. I can't do that in talk. I'm so sorry. All you get is this instead of the lovely artwork that is these cards. But you can also place ground units, and your purpose is to attack the opponent's base. The opponent's base has, say, 30 hit points, or a little bit less, but somewhere around there. Whoever defeats the opponent's base first wins. But here's the cool thing. You can have up to 4 players, so you can have multiple bases. So whoever the last man standing is the winner. And I think that's a fun... I know there's something like Commander where you can have multiplayers like that, but I just thought that was super cool. And being able to pick from so many different leaders and so many different bases and build so many types of decks because they include all the Star Wars eras, you can have the game that you like. Yep, so if you want a TCG competitive game, now this one might... If any of these leave you not feeling good after, I would say this is the one. This would be the meanest one if you have a really strong deck, or if you just play really poorly because you're new or you're just not good at it and you get annihilated. I will say you don't necessarily walk away feeling warm and fuzzy. Probably the most competitive of the games here. I don't think mean is even the right word. Look, it's the most direct assault on each other. Maybe this and Undaunted. All right, y'all. Let's get classic again. I was really surprised with Puerto Rico. And first I wanted to mention, I went with an old version. This is a 2002 printing, so this is from Rio Grande Games, and Andreas Barth is the designer. Let's try that. The designer. Publisher, I said Rio Grande Games. It also says Aaliyah. I never know which one it is. But anyway, this particular older edition, which isn't the one you're going to find in retail stores right now, this is, I think, 3 to 5 players. Then there's the more recent edition, but also Awakened Realms is adding their special touch to this, and they usually add a solo mode like they did with Castles of Burgundy. So I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, and don't take my word on this yet, I want to wait till it's actually out. I believe that's supposed to come with a solo mode. I'm hoping to feature that on this channel and do a comparison between the different published editions. That's why I wanted to start way back here. Thematically, this is probably the most, what would you say, tone deaf, or could be offensive, as it's a ugly part of history, right? It's colonialism. I'm not sure if they carry that through in the newest editions or not, but that's what you're doing, is you're playing out the history of the colonization of Puerto Rico. Look, again, the simplicity of learning this game. You've got basically 1 page of rules to really learn it, and then a reference for some of the details. But why it's one of the best competitive games. There are 7 roles in this game. When it's your turn, you play as the governor. you choose one of those 7 rules. So let's say you pick the mayor. Everyone's going to know the rule that you picked, because when you pick the mayor, it's going to have an action that you take, and everybody playing takes that same action. That's right. So you're not just benefiting yourself, you're benefiting everyone else. It adds to that competitive feeling that I wanted, where you're also forced to work together even when you don't want to, and no one walks away feeling too bad. But the cool thing is, if you play the mayor, there's going to be a bonus action that only you, the one who chose the role, gets to take. So there is a benefit to picking it. Every player does that at the end of the round. Any roles that weren't selected, money gets placed on them. So there's a little more incentive to pick those roles in the next round. Some of those rules are going to let you make buildings. So you're building up your settlement. I'm sorry, look at this box. In Puerto Rico. So you are working on your own individual boards, purchasing from one board that is a shared market with cutesy little simple, look, this is an old game, simple wood pieces and simple cardboard tiles. But you go round and round. At the end of the game, the player with the best settlement is going to have the most points, mainly from having the best buildings. They win. Tell me how you feel about Puerto Rico. Is this one of your favorites? Do you want to try it out? What do you think of these older, somewhat uglier classic games? All right, I have featured Rurik Dawn of Kiev, designed by Stanislav Kordonsky, before published by Peacekeeper Games. Wow, what a gem. This is going to be more in the medium weight. However, it's actually easy to learn. The reason it's more in the medium weight is the analysis paralysis. So if there's any game here that is going to cause analysis paralysis, it is this game. So be aware of that if you go into this multiplayer. Fantastic solo mode. Get paralyzed all you want because you've got time, right? But let's open up this gem. What I love about this game is how you get in each other's way constantly as you strategize. So the game takes place over 4 rounds, and there are 3 phases. You've got your strategy phase, your action phase, and I call it your claim phase. I believe it's your claim phase. And of course, lovely little plastic miniatures. I love the organization in here. Wooden pieces as well. But let me show you this lovely board. So, nice thing is, though you do have your own player board, most of the action takes place on shared boards and a shared map. So you've got this lovely, just look at that map. If we can open that up, yes. Absolutely beautiful map of Kiev. So I believe this is old Ukraine. I could be wrong there. There's a whole history in the rule book. Very cool. And you're playing battling princes and princesses vying for the throne of their father. And you got your player board is quite simple. Just one little board where you collect resources. So most of your time is not spent there. You just store things here. Where you really spend time is actually on this board during the strategy phase. You have these little workers that you place called advisors, and they have a number like 1 through 5, right? So in the strategy phase, the higher the number, the more powerful the action. So if you have a 5 and you put it in the topmost space of, say, attack, then you're going to have the strongest attack. So in the game, each player places 1 advisor in the strategy phase, and you pick any of the numbers you want, a weaker one or a stronger one, based on your strategy. And of course, you don't know what the next person is going to place, so you place something, they place another number, it changes your strategy. That competitive interaction is always there. Once everybody's placed all their available advisors, then it comes to the action phase. And what's cool is the action phase uses the same number on the same advisor. So if the advisor of that number 5 was here on attack, well, initiative works in reverse order. So the lower number goes first. So even though you have the strongest, you might go last. So you really got to plan as you're interacting with all this. So then during the action phase, a player takes their first initiative character and carries out the action, which is going to play out on the board, and it's going to change the strategy that you have. So you're constantly weaving back, and you're always active. You are always active, even if it's not your turn, because you're seeing what they're doing, because it affects you. And there are chain reactions. Oh my goodness, that's where the analysis paralysis comes in. And you got lovely leader miniatures too, but I don't want to go in the weeds on this. I promised myself I was going to make a short video for you. That hasn't happened, so we got to move on. This wouldn't be a competitive games video without a solid 4X game. You could argue to a degree that Rurik Dawn of Kiev is a 4X game. Maybe it's categorized as that. I see it slanting a little more on the Euro side of things, but correct me if I'm wrong. But what I like is that this is a fast-paced 4X game, all right? We don't have Scythe right here. It reminds me a little bit of an easier to approach SETI. And as cool as SETI is, I'm kind of leaning toward loving this one, but we'll see. Downside, this is a 2 to 4 player game, no solo mode included. So I'm not going to get it played as much as I could SETI. But anyway, you're in space, there's little light left in the universe, and you're playing as these different alien factions trying to collect the most light. The game ends when somebody's collected 20 light, and then after that, whoever has the most points wins the game. But you've got a cool rotating galaxy board, just like SETI, if you've seen that. So there's a full board, but you've got these rotating discs, right, that change as the game continues, and they represent like a solar system, or maybe even a galaxy. I'm pretty sure it's just a solar system, with these lovely, lovely planets. But don't worry, we're going to get to how simple it is to play. But, ooh, dog howdy. You've got these marble planets, okay, that you place on the board, and they spin around as you rotate the board. I absolutely love it. But what you do on your turn is you just play one of your action cards. I think there are 6 action cards. Everybody plays simultaneously, so you play your card. Maybe it's research or maybe it's command, but you put it down and everybody does their actions, right? The only one that needs to be played in order, I believe, is the command card, because that initiates battle. So you're all moving around on the same board together. You do have your own player board where you are collecting light and building up with research and technologies, but the real interaction is happening here. And as you see other players' strategy while you're taking your strategy, is going to affect your next turn, which is going to come very, very quickly. But again, with command, attack has a certain order, so that's the only one that doesn't happen simultaneously. So when somebody plays that, it's like, oh no, right? But you can also, the cool thing is, since there's a limited number of action cards, I can know, all right, my opponent over there has played 3 of their action cards and they haven't played command, so I know war is coming, or I know research is coming, or we're down to our last card, I know what everybody has. So you are really competing, paying attention to everyone else's strategy, which hopefully you've seen is kind of a theme in gathering this collection of competitive games. That's all I have to say about it. Let's go on to our next and last. Oh my goodness, we made it all the way to the end. I love closing boxes too, as long as they don't make that weird noise. Don't make that weird noise. Okay, finally, you saw when we were in the store, I wanted to include a Lacerda game, right? But I couldn't justify one of the heavier Lacerda games for this video. I would love to do a Lacerda only video. I love his stuff. I don't like all his games, but I love quite a few. I went with House of Fado. This is the most recent, and yes, I did play it at the Board Games at the Beach convention, which if you can go next year, go next year. I'll be there. I would love to meet you. But House of Fado, it's designed by both Vital Lacerda and, I'm so sorry about my pronunciation, Joao Quintela Martins. And I apologize if I got that completely wrong. But published, I'm assuming, Eagle Gryphon Games. Yeah, Lacerda's always with Eagle Gryphon Games. But this is a medium weight approachability. There is teaching yourself. If you're not used to doing that going through the rule book, this one might be a bit more of a challenge. You can do it. I was taught this game, which again is so rare, but we learned it in, I would say, 20 minutes, maybe 30. So this is a little more invested in the learning, but the thing is, once you learn these games, you can read that board. You don't forget what to do. You just look at the board, you know what to do. But one of the beautiful things is, of course, the richness of theme in a competitive game. And Lacerda games, boy, do they bring theme. So in House of Fado, there's a whole history. I debated reading it to you, and I'm not going to in the introduction, but just the beauty of these restaurants in early 20th century in Portugal, I believe. A lot of his games are based out of Lisbon in Portugal, but where there are 3 instrumentalists in these cafes that would play, and people would go for the whole night. So if you're a guest, you get a table, and you stay until close. So a limited number of customers or guests can come in. That affects the theme of how you play this game, but you've got this lovely board, the shared board, as well as your player board. Most of your time is spent, well, all of your actions really are selected on this player board. And just look at how lovely that is. 4 different sections. You're going to be recruiting different musicians to come and play in your cafe down here. And then you're going to have billboards and advertisements down here to draw new customers and even critics. And then, of course, you got your own player board, your own cafe with tables where you seat customers or a critic. And you try to gain new tables as well as you play through the game. But what I like so much is the interactivity. Now, it's a little less interactivity than some of the other games, but I found myself engaged the entire time. Because what you do on your turn, you have a certain number of workers that you're able to place on the board, either to recruit a musician or advertise, something like that, right? You place your worker on the spot, you take the action. Easy. But then the next player, they might put their worker on the same spot that you're at. Well, that's going to bump you into one of these secondary action spots. There's going to be up to 3 of them, and you're going to pick any of those that are available, and you get to take an action based on them. So you're actually helping your opponent sometimes when you take an action, or you're making them take an action that they don't want to take yet. So the competitive part that jostling is always there. And you're competing for limited resources like notes in order to compose musical scores. You might be trying to get a certain musical score done first so that you get the most points for it, and you can gain a special victory point for having the most or reaching a certain goal first. But really, it was that interactivity of bumping people onto those secondary spots. And I just found myself planning the whole time, trying to be like, all right, I want to go here so that I can take that action, but then they'll bump me at the right time so I get to pick the secondary action that I want. But somebody kept coming in and they'd get to that secondary action first somehow, and I didn't get the 2 money that I wanted to get because they kept getting there first. So you are just getting in your way, and man, it's tense as you start racing for those same goals. So yes, it's a Euro. Yes, it's highly thematic, but it is competitive in a very fun way that felt engaging, challenging. I didn't feel bad when I lost, and I lost terribly. I didn't feel bad at all. Yeah, so you want to introduce yourself to the world of Lacerda, or you already love Lacerda. And I really should give credit to the other designer, because I don't know, he may have been the primary one. So Martins, what an amazing job. Beautiful game, House of Fado. That's it. Don't forget about that discount code in the pinned comment if you're interested in any of the games. If you're not, totally cool. What would you add to this list? If you could take away one of these games and replace it with another, what would you pick? Do you agree? Do you disagree? It's totally fine. Let me know in the comments. I love talking to you. That's the funnest part of this for me. I love you all. I'll see you next time.